Good morning again from me. The title of my presentation you can see here, and I really really delighted to present and to introduce the MEFANET network here. And my role here should be to briefly introduce the main milestones in the history of MEFANET for new listeners, for new participants, and for our foreign guests, of course. And I would invite you for the next session where the leader of our IT development, Dušek, will introduce more in detail new IT innovations, and where we can discuss also the methodical issues and so on. And maybe you had a look at the program, and it's really true, the title of my presentation is like this, but believe me, it was not my idea to call it like this, because I don't want to be here like US President Obama to summarize in the state of some union. So I will concentrate more on the networking, on the word networking, and on the main principles standing behind the success and the functionality of our network. First, for new listeners, I should remind what is MEFANET. And simply speaking, it's just a project. MEFANET was initiated as a project in 2006-2007 as a collaborative cooperation of Czech and Slovak medical faculties, as a project introducing new IT innovations, e-based innovations to the education of medical students. Here at the bottom, I hope you can see it, we have, you can see from geographical perspective the current tributary area, let's say tributary area of the project, and you can see that it's our proud that we cover in a representative way all Czech and Slovak medical faculties. And so I again welcome all representatives of the faculties which are surely in the audience. Maybe we are small from European point of view, but we cover a relatively large e-community of users. The core part of the project is consists currently of all 11 faculties of Czech and Slovak Republic, and it forms fully representative community of more than 35, as you can see here, more than 35,000 of IP addresses. But MEFANET is not only a project, it's also a contract-based network. In 2008-2009, if I remember it well, all deans of all Czech and Slovak medical faculties subscribed the contract, which established the network as an academic body which can apply, for example, for some grant. And the contract also defined our rules of our functioning and rules of our organization. So here in the list, I hope we did not forget about any faculty. You can see the list of core members of coordinating council of the network, all medical faculties of Czech and Slovak Republic, fully representative spectrum. And here in the additional list, you can see that our collaboration has been extended in recent times, in recent years, to healthcare sciences, to biomedical engineering, as you can see here, to professional IT development, and to data analysis as well. And I would like to emphasize here that this is the new dimension, very positive dimension in the growth of the MEFANET network, that we are now coming to close collaboration, to close association with all healthcare faculties and healthcare departments of both countries, Czech and Slovak Republic. Simply to characterize or to summarize the situation of the MEFANET network in numbers, as I've already said, all 11 faculties are included. More than 5 faculties and departments of healthcare sciences is really a recent development, and it's our pleasure that we can monitor yearly, as you can see here, nearly 500,000 of visits, of new visits in all portal instances and in all web portals of the MEFANET network. 13% of them being replicated, being repeated from long-term regular users, visitors of the network. The high incidence, however, of newly coming visitors indicates for me that the network still has not saturated its potential capacity to grow, and we are still on the track of growing, I guess, because we have high incidence, high prevalence of newly coming visitors to the portal instances. Here you can see the time profile of the visits from last year expectable decrease in the summer months, but you can see that now in the autumn we have another peak of new evening visitors, and I think that large number of visits and long-term regular users is really a success and a proof of functionality of the whole network. This is very old slide, I must say, and I do apologize I show it here each year, but I think that it's very, very important and still valid. It shows the basic principles which, let's say, stick the network together. And it's nothing new in it. I can say on the left from your view, in the left part of the slide, you can see the principles which can be summarized like respect for freedom, spontaneity, voluntariness. And on the other part of the slide, you can see the principles or rules which, in my view, should motivate individual teachers or entire institutions to enter the world of e-learning. And indeed, it's true. In the MEFANET network, no one is compelled to participate. The participation is voluntary. Each individual faculty is respected. MEFANET network fully respects full autonomy of participating subjects, institutions, or faculties. And the collaboration itself is not associated with any obligatory or mandatory commitments. So, in the MEFANET network, or in the MEFANET community, let's say, you can feel yourself as voluntary author of educational materials, which of course should be prepared in a fully standardized way, but which can be accessible to a really wide range or wide community of users. And this is our very simple and basic premise. Our assumption is that each author, teacher, as author of educational materials, wants to be known, wants to be respected, recognized, wants to be used, of course, and wants to be cited. And the MEFANET network and its rules offers just these elementary benefits and elementary principles, nothing else. During the history of the MEFANET, we had to adopt several standardizing principles, and most of them are associated with sharing or with e-publishing of educational materials. And it's associated with the so-called MEFANET web portal, the address is here, which acts as a gateway to all discrete, individual or state-alone portal instances of all participating faculties, institutions and subjects. And it is our proud, and I can say also success, that all these faculties have adopted recently the same rules of the functioning of the portals, the same rules of the implementation of the portals, and the same just one academic license of these portal instances. So the whole network is fully standardized, and it adopted the same set of filters which allows overall sharing of materials and which allows overall searching for materials. So the entire network is fully standardized, fully transparent. It can be easily accessible from this just one point, which we call gateway of the MEFANET, and you can check yourself its functioning using this address. This is just an example of the set of filters we use. I guess that it's copied from the web of our faculty, medical faculty of Masaryk University. And again, you can see there is nothing new in that. The filter simply copies the standard structure of educational and scientific disciplines. And so very baseline principle which allows us the overall sharing of materials and which ensures the full transparency of the network. This is my favorite slide, because it shows the functionality and vital potential of the whole network. It shows time-related profile of number of items, number of educational materials published in the MEFANET gateway, in the top portal of the whole network of all faculties and subjects. And you can see that from its starting point, the number of published items had risen, I can use the word dramatically or exponentially. And that's why by the end of 2010, 2011, we had to decide if we support quantity or quality when publishing educational materials. And I'm pretty happy now, and I'm pretty happy all the time, of course, that the quality won, and quality wins, I must say. And starting from this time point, each individual item, each individual educational material, which is to be published in the MEFANET gateway, must be closely associated, hand in hand, with strict validation procedures implemented inside the faculties. So this drop down or this sharp decrease in the number of items is not negative feature. It's positive feature of the whole network. It's self-cleaning process. It's a proof that we are able to use the feedback, and we would like to publish only materials of high quality. All these items were not removed completely or were not deleted, of course. They were transported to some waiting list or waiting pool, which we call it now currently, I forgot the name, the MEFANET sandbox, is it true? And the sandbox challenges the authors to improve these materials, to improve the content, to standardize the content according to given criteria, given quality criteria, to be published officially under the brand of the MEFANET network. When I say quality criteria, I do not mean any blind declaration or empty declaration of quality, any blind political declaration. Quality criteria of the MEFANET are strictly defined. Our recent developments have been focused on the development of a new set of tools for the evaluation of published content in the MEFANET gateway. We call the whole system as four-dimensional model for digital content quality assessment, because it basically consists of 4 steps or dimensions. Allow me to briefly mention these dimensions or these steps. The first one, most important I guess, is the review process, peer review process. Each educational material to be branded by MEFANET must be peer reviewed by at least 2 independent reviewers, well-known, recognized teachers. And the peer review process is usually or commonly organized or managed inside the publishing faculties. The second dimension means typological classification of the materials, because we need to recognize if the published materials, the educational tool is, for example, learning management system course, or if it's digital video and so on, and we must be able not only to recognize it, but we must code it to the metadata describing the material, to be able to sort the materials retrospectively, for example, according to the technology used and according to granularity or according to complexity of the published item. The third dimension refers to sorting of the educational materials according to target group. We must be able to recognize, for example, educational materials with basic content focused on undergraduate students, and materials with for advanced studies, for postgraduate studies, complex materials and so on. Again, it's a dimension which must be assessed, which must be recognized, and which must be coded to the metadata, to the database describing the published items. And last but not least, we use something like user self-study scoring, which is a kind of quantitative feedback from users to the authors. All these 4 dimensions form the complexity of the 4-dimensional model, which is adopted in the MEFANET gateway. And so currently, newly published materials, all newly published, officially published materials, branded by the umbrella of MEFANET, must be sorted, must be classified according to this criteria, and must be peer reviewed. And I think that this system has already been confirmed as vitally important, because otherwise we organize just some blind production of some materials without any relevant impact on teaching process. I think that you all can agree with me. When we started with the QA/QC procedures, I must say, to be honest, we were a little bit concerned that it could discourage the authors, the teachers. And fortunately, it did not happen. As you can see here, we still realize growing and steady, let's say, frequency of publishing in the MEFANET gateway, and the cumulative curve in the publishing of materials can be extrapolated like a line, as a line, but I would like to emphasize here that this is the line of quality. This is the line producing high quality materials which are ready to be recommended for students, which is especially important in medical sciences, as Professor Sterba has said in his opening talk. You can check yourself the content of the MEFANET gateway, of course, using this address. Here, this is just an example of newly published items, and you can see here is just a look inside. But you can see here that the published textbooks or materials are really complex, and these are peer-reviewed, well-recognized materials which can be recommended for curricula, which can be recommended for accreditation processes, and which can be, of course, recommended to students. When you enter the portal, you will recognize that the portal is relatively diverse in content, and it's another principle we have adopted, and which is adopted to the MEFANET functionality. We support the diversity of primary production because it's the only viable way how to react on requirements of changeable healthcare. So there are no limits for the authors, and we support also from centralized IT development. We support learning management courses, we support telemedicine, digital video, we support Web2 technology-based production, and of course we support educational software development, computer-assisted simulations, and so on. I think that the diversity is another success of and another principle standing or laying behind the success of the growth of our network. And now, in last part of my short presentation, I would like to at least mention the most important sub-projects which contribute to the methodical skills of the network. And I would like to mention the method, especially the methodical sub-projects. And we all should thank to our colleagues who invest their energy and their time and money to develop these sub-projects and to contribute to the infrastructure of the whole network. What is true, in fact, in the MEFANET network is that each individual author, team, or faculty or institution can initiate its own project, own sub-project, using the umbrella of MEFANET and using the centralized support in the development of the project. And then these authors can disseminate the outcomes among the other members. Of course, when they are able to go through the already mentioned validation procedure. I have already mentioned the development of the gateway and associated electronic tools for quality assessment and so on. It is itself baseline project of the development of MEFANET. It was historically the first sub-project because we started with the development of the common gateway for all faculties. The second sub-project I would like to mention is a sub-project called Moodle MEFANET, which is focused on the support of centralized agenda in standardized production of learning management courses. It is driven and guaranteed by Dr. Feberova, and thanks to her we have a possibility to standardize our learning management system production according to guidelines. And I hope that maybe even in this conference we can see already standardized learning management courses and educational materials which were generated from this sub-project. The third sub-project, or let's say pillar of the MEFANET network, is sub-project called Wiki Lectures. It's a project which is focused on collaborative production of encyclopedic teaching materials, both for teachers and students. And from my point of view, the main added value of this project is that it attracts the attention of students, and it's amazing participation of students as editors or responsible writers of teaching materials. And last but not least, it's my most favorite family of projects. I would like to mention growing family and growing group of sub-projects which attract and keep the attention of clinical physicians from clinical practice, from university hospitals or from primary care. These, in these projects, in these sub-projects, we develop typically develop infrastructures which encapsulate both primary care specialists, specialized clinical registries, including telemedicine, outcomes of hospital information systems, as well as population-based registries, to produce the learning materials based on clinical practice, based on standard production of data, images from clinical practice. It's some kind of bridging between teaching at universities on one side and between clinical practice. And the main added value is, of course, close association with clinical practice and with professional medical societies. And the second, most important added value of these materials is, let's say, close adherence to outcomes of evidence-based medicine and to clinical standards and guidelines. Most typical, we have tens of such projects implemented in the MEFANET network. I can say tens now, but the most typical outcome is portal, is interactive software or something like that, working over real clinical data or computer simulated data. And the portal typically shows or documents, for example, therapeutic and diagnostic algorithms, or documents clinical guidelines, but based on real clinical situations. So it's something like computer-assisted simulation, derived from clinical practice, focused on practical teaching, focused on practical learning in these fields. This is just an example of such portal from the field of emergency medicine or from the field of therapy of severe sepsis. And as I have already said, we have tens of such projects. Another example of such projects, which I can call, or I call it hospital-based e-learning, because it's derived from the clinical practice. These are the examples from the field of cancer research and cancer care, interactive portals which work with, for example, population-based registries, which can be used in the teaching of cancer epidemiology, human and ecological risk assessment, as well as in the teaching of clinical standards in the field of cancer research. For a one-time registration, for example, any student or teacher can get all these customized features and figures, and people are welcome to select the diagnosis, for example, and they can analyze real-world clinical data, and they can study, for example, TNM classification, and you can show the students practically in an interactive way the full content of huge databases, the full content of some sub-databases of hospital information system, and it's fully interactive. Again, you can check it yourself, it's active. You can check it yourself, and using your computer, your access to these portals. Everything is free and licensed and branded under the umbrella of MEFANET. So what to conclude now? I hope that I have convinced you that MEFANET does exist. It's still alive and vital project with some potential to further growth and to develop its capacity, and I'm sure that let's say triangle of our principles in the MEFANET network. It means diversity and voluntariness of primary production, standardization of the primary production, and last point, quality assessment, validation, and quality assessment modeling. That this triangle really works. And it's, of course, thanks to all of you, active participants in the MEFANET, and teachers who invest your energy and your money to develop the sub-projects and to produce the education materials. So, to conclude, I cannot say nothing else than thank you all for coming here, and thank you all for working in a live MEFANET. Thank you.